Schneider's Bakery episodes are like Newton's third law. For every episode, there is an equal and opposite episode. Meaning, every time there's an episode that brings up a concept and does it poorly, there's another episode somewhere out there in the Schneiderverse that does the same concept way better. What if I were to tell you there was an iCarly episode that had a romance plot that was incredibly well handled? I'm sure most of you would have at least mild disbelief. But what if I told you that episode was something related to SETI? Well, then I would be lying to you, because this has absolutely nothing to do with SETI. In fact, it has everything to do with the other relationship pairing. You know, the one that actually makes at least a little bit more sense. Of course, I am talking about I Saved Your Life, which is the Bizarro version of I Date a Bad Boy. If I Date a Bad Boy is a double-layer cake that went on for too long and just got really awful, then I Saved Your Life is a single-layer cake baked to perfection, with light frosting that I guarantee is not covering up anything disgusting. I had a few big problems with I Date a Bad Boy. In fact, I would consider it one of the worst episodes I've reviewed so far, on the bottom of the bakery. There's the fact that the show treats Griffin collecting Pee-wee babies as if it is just the most horrible, emasculating, worst thing a human being could ever do. Even if the teasing was justified from Carly, it goes on for so long in this episode. Minutes on end are spent just sitting around making jokes about this kid. There's also Spencer's behavior in the first part where he just kinda suddenly is okay with the relationship between Carly and the bad boy. And of course, the episode makes it clear that Carly is incredibly shallow and literally only liked this boy because he had bad boy traits, wanting to break up with him as soon as she found out he was into one thing that wasn't stereotypically bad boy-ish. If you can believe it, I Saved Your Life also has Carly being shallow, but the episode actually acknowledges that she's being shallow and kind of justifies it. So the story is that Carly is almost hit by a truck, off screen of course, but Freddy pushes her out of the way and gets injured himself. Carly feels incredibly bad about this and tries to help Freddy out in his injured state. But in the process of helping him, the two kinda have a weird moment of romance and end up kissing. And then they start acting like boyfriend and girlfriend, but they're not really sure they want to call each other boyfriend and girlfriend. Sam tells Freddy that Carly doesn't actually love him, but it's just the effects of her feeling really sympathetic towards him because she was the reason why he got hurt. Freddy feels conflicted about this, but ultimately decides to confront Carly and say that even though he wants to be with her, he doesn't really think that these are good circumstances for it, and after Freddy heals and things cool down, maybe eventually they'll get together. And that's really it. It's very simple, but effective. It's actually really amazing that iCarly was able to pull off a romance episode like this that I actually genuinely really enjoyed and felt was well handled. See, a lot of times when shows do this plot where character A and B want to be together, but oh no, there is some force keeping them apart. Usually that force keeping them apart, or the reason they can't be together, ends up being incredibly stupid and contrived and annoying, and you're just kind of sitting there like, well, actually no, that reason is stupid, you should just be together. I'm looking at you, dream of love. Stupid tree trunks. It could come off as unrealistic or frustrating or just kind of annoying. But here, it all makes perfect sense. With Carly being shallow towards Freddy, it's not like she's even really consciously doing it. She doesn't fall for him because suddenly he's more handsome or suddenly he has a lot of money or anything like that. It's out of sympathy. It's out of actually caring about him. And it's out of possibly genuinely liking him like that, but being confused about her own feelings. And it's not like Carly is doing this out of intentional pity. It's not like Carly's like, man, I don't like going out with this kid, but you know, I caused him to get hurt, so I have to do it. It's a lot more complicated than that. Both of them had a near-death experience, so it's kind of natural. The ending isn't Carly saying, you're right, I only liked you because I felt bad for you. No, it's Carly and Freddy saying, you know what? I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. There's something weird going on, so maybe we should just wait until tension dies down a bit before we try it again. And if that isn't one of the most realistic, rational, logical, and presenting a good moral east endings to any Schneider's Bakery show, then I don't know what is. It's a pretty good lesson, right? Sometimes when you're under extreme stress or danger or other external factors, you can feel things for someone that may or may not be genuine, and really you should probably just kind of wait things out to see how you feel about the person after your hormones and your adrenaline and everything else settles down. It's a far cry from the cartoonish, obnoxious portrayal of romance in I Date a Bad Boy, where Carly is just genuinely shallow for this guy who she knows nothing about, and then the second she finds out something about him that doesn't fit this weird stereotypical bad boy image she's built up in her head about him, she instantly hates him. And in terms of Carly's love interests, Griffin was, well, for the first part of I Date a Bad Boy, just a really boring, flat character. It's like they brought in a generic hot guy for the protagonist to make out with a bunch. You didn't really feel any genuine connection between the two because all of that happened off screen. But with Freddy, well, Freddy's an established character, and his crush on Carly has kind of been a recurring element, so I was a lot more invested in where this romance plot was going to go. I mean, with Griffin, they can just boot him off the show at the end of the episode, but Freddy's a main character, so we get to see things from both Carly and Freddy's perspectives. Now, I'm not really a shipper when it comes to this show at all, and I'm also not really a fan of romance in general in shows, so I can't tell you if Freddy's kiss with Carly is more romantic or whatever, but I much more enjoyed watching this romance than the romance between Carly and the generic hot guy. Oh, and instead of an extended sequence where Carly, Sam, and Freddy make fun of the boy with Pee-wee babies, you know what we get in I Saved Your Life? A kind of frighteningly somber scene between Sam and Spencer. You know how I made a big deal in I Kiss about the scene where Carly confronts Sam about how horrible she was? Well, apparently I was wrong about that scene in that it did have one very quiet laugh track that apparently I missed, but was otherwise laugh track free. Well, in this episode, there is indeed a minute or so without a laugh track, and it is very effective. Because the show is usually filled to the brim with that obnoxious laughter and zany one-liners, when Sam comes into the apartment and things go quiet and they stop making zingers, it actually has this really powerful effect of, oh crap, something's gone wrong. It's not that it was even like great drama or anything, it's just that it was such a beautiful contrast between how jokey and laugh track filled the rest of the show was that it really kind of makes you sit up and pay attention. And of course, the subject matter is pretty severe. Freddy got hit by a truck after trying to save Carly. What's even better about this scene is that the subplot of this episode is that Sam and Spencer are the only two left in a game of blowgun paintball assassin, and Spencer is incredibly paranoid about when Sam will strike next. So naturally, when Sam bursts in the room and says there's something wrong, Spencer immediately assumes she's going to hit him with a paintball. And that's kind of what the audience is led to believe as well, which again only adds to the juxtaposition. Yes, it would have also been powerful to have actually seen Freddy save Carly from this taco truck. At the same time, they probably don't have the budget for anything like that, and if they were to attempt to film it, it might come off as cheesy or weird looking. So instead, having Sam tell us this information in a really serious manner, when usually she's all about the jokes, I think is just as, if not more so, effective than if we had actually seen it. Also, the scene ends with a gag where Sam apparently bought a taco from the taco truck that hit Freddy. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of funny. Especially Spencer's reaction. I really don't have any more comparisons to I Date a Bad Boy to make, but I really do need to go on and talk about how great this episode is overall.
So get that filth out of my video.
Now I want to talk about one of the more hit or miss aspects of iCarly. I'm talking about Freddy's mom. If you don't know this character, she is overly paranoid and overly protective, like way overly protective of Freddy, to the point where she's kind of a psycho, although she's not a hashtag super psycho. Her aggressive, overprotective nature and the fact that she's nasty to a lot of the other characters around her makes her somewhat uncomfortable and annoying to watch at times. It's obviously a joke, but there are times when you really just feel bad for Freddy, especially when Sam uses it to pick on him. But in this episode, she is over the top, she is incredibly mean, but it works here so well. I think part of it is because her son almost just died, so her behavior is a bit more justified than usual, but also the comedy in this episode is just kind of on point. From her pressing like 80 keys on a keypad to unlock the security gate, to how she just outright says to Carly's face, "You tried to kill my son." She's cartoonishly crazy, and since she's only used in the episode really for comic relief and doesn't have any bearing on the actual story, it works well. Oh, and you want to know something else cool about this episode? Sam actually helps Freddy. She does it in a very Sam way, but she actually does give some interesting insight. See, Sam tells Freddy about the time that she dated a guy because he gave her bacon or something. The idea being that Carly only likes Freddy because he saved her life. And while yes, Sam was saying it to irritate Freddy, she also does seem to be giving some honest insight about the situation from a third party. Sure, it might be a little mean, but she's not wrong. And other than that, she doesn't really pick on Freddy here. I could just picture them doing this episode where Freddy gets hit by a truck and then Sam continues to bully him, and that would have been awful. But instead, they keep Sam focused on her subplot with Spencer. And they don't try to do anything stupid where Sam doesn't care that Freddy was hit by a truck or something. She is definitely concerned when she goes to tell Spencer, even if she did stop for a taco. Oh, and as far as the subplot goes, it's nice. It's nothing complicated, but it does its job as a B-plot. It's mildly interesting, and there's a few good gags of Sam and Spencer hiding in weird places to surprise the other person, and it adds a little bit of levity and goofiness in what is otherwise a romantic and serious episode. Well, as romantic and serious as a show like this can ever be, at least. It's kind of ironic that I Date a Bad Boy is one of my least favorite iCarly episodes, and this one happens to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, iCarly episode. Everything in it just works. There's a serious moment that I genuinely was invested in. There's some decent comedy in the form of Freddy's mom, a subplot that held my attention and had a little bit of action and comedy to break things up, and a romance story that felt very genuine and real and not hackneyed or forced in any way, with a realistic and interesting conclusion that made me feel satisfied at the end of the episode. Episodes like this one and I Kiss really prove that the show can actually handle stories that are just a little bit more serious. And it's kind of sad to see that as the show went on, it got more goofy and wacky and stupid than keeping with some of its more grounded, realistic, and interesting roots. This is an iCarly episode that I wholeheartedly recommend. And as we all know, this was the last time that iCarly ever attempted anything to do with romance. Ha 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 ha! He lied, knowing full well that the SETI arc is coming up soon on Bottom of the Bakery, like within the next, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 episodes. Oh, just you wait, guys. Just you wait. Pie Guy Rules, out.